What's good, Renegade Nation? Before we begin the video, I'd like to give a shout out to our most recent Patreon supporters and YouTube members. Dark Paradigm, Send Lewd Parchments, seriously, Sebastian Sonic 12 and 11, Texan Sasquatch, Dante 151, Mariposa, Christine Philogene, Lebluinator, Caramelized Boy, Craig Ellington, Graffiti Turtle, Jenny, Travis Tennant, Viper King 15, Texan Sasquatch, hey, and Noah Strife. And I would also like to especially thank our executive producers, Joshua Fix, The Gimpster 101, and Bevan Brumman. Thank you all very much for your support. If you want to become a YouTube member, click the join button, which is down by the subscribe button down below. And if you want to become a Patreon supporter, click the link in the description to find out more. We'll see you there. You know, Nick, I remember this kid from so long ago. I remembered seeing his videos such a long time ago. And I remember a lot of people wrote him off saying, like, oh, he's a dime store version of Angry Video Game Nerd. Oh, this guy's not funny. This guy's stupid, blah, blah, blah.
I never even heard of him until recently.
Oh, Scott the Woz?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, he's been around for a long time. I mean, see, just looking on his channel here, yeah, he's got over 1 million subs, and he started this channel back in 2012. Yeah. So, about a decade ago, Scott started this channel, and, yeah. I have always, I've always seen his stuff recommended to me. I've watched a couple of his things, and very informative, very funny, very, very cool editing style, and for the longest time has been requested on our Discord. And this is one that, I think is sort of relevant nowadays because, you know, with the new release of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox One, or Xbox Series X, rather, sorry, console redesigns are nothing new. They've been happening for a long time. What was your first, redesigned console that you saw or got that really stuck out in your mind?
I guess the PlayStation 2.
Oh, the slim PlayStation 2?
Oh, you're talking about, the reworks of them?
Yes, like the reworks.
Yeah, there weren't really any.
Weren't really any that you saw that struck your fancy, or any that you played on, or anything like that?
I feel like there was one. Yeah, there was one that I was like, that sucks because that's a better version of what I have, but I never bought it. Like, I don't buy into redesigned consoles. Like, I think it's actually kind of a fucking scam that they put out a, superior version of consoles, halfway through their lifespan, and then you have to upgrade if you want to feel like you get the best out of your console, for the rest of the time.
I do buy into them if they are, in fact, an upgrade. For instance, actually,
I just don't like the fact that they upgrade it halfway through. I'm just like, just fucking put out what you're going to put out run it through its lifespan, then put out a new one.
I can understand that. But at the same time, you have to, companies have to have something to release on the date of. They have stuff that may be ready, but then it's not. It's just like nowadays with Intel wanting to release these new chips, but yet they guzzle so much power that power supplies can't fucking handle them. Mm. And then Intel's just like, we probably should have waited until we had, a 10 nanometer process instead of a 14 nanometer process. But, key point, we have several consoles down here that are redesigns and reworks. Yeah, this is we have a PS1, a redesign of the original PlayStation 1 console. This right here actually ran games and loaded games faster than the original PlayStation. So
didn't even know that.
So it was an improvement. And then we have here one that came out a little bit earlier. We have the NES, the smaller version of the original SNES. As you can see, we got Star Fox in there because of course we do. And then probably one of the best console redesigns fixed a huge issue in terms of game discs getting destroyed. The original Xbox 360 Slim, not really slim-er, but
still red ring though.
Still red ringed, but nowhere near as bad as the first one. The first one had a failure rate of 60%. That one, 5%. And then we have the redesigned Sega Genesis 16-bit. Instead of you having to buy the adapter and everything, all just came in one. So,
also, I feel like it was higher than a 60% failure rate. It was 60% as far as they knew. But literally everyone that I know who owned an Xbox 360 had theirs red on them at some point.
My original Xbox did not. My original Xbox 360, the white one, the one that had a high failure rate, never red ringed on
You got
me.
lucky as fuck.
I know.
It's mine and everybody else I knew had theirs red ring on them.
But then the redesign fixed that with the ventilation issue, with the ventilation problem, and also the disc tray that stabilized the disc so it didn't destroy it, pretty much.
So I never had a problem with that. You just had to not move your console, while you're playing it.
Yeah.
So some people said they had a problem with, people would be playing on their Xbox and, they'd have, little brothers and sisters or kids that would be, terrorizing through the house and just them shaking the floor. And
that would fuck it up, yeah.
Yeah, by proximity, whatever the Xbox was sitting on, it would fuck the disc up.
Yes. But there's some redesigns that improve upon the original concept and in truth make it a better value and also make it a much lower price point of entry for people getting into it, which
what really irked me was
cool with
Nintendo's bullshit where they're like, here's a 3DS 6 months later. Here's a 3DS with a bigger screen. And I'm like, fuck you, Nintendo.
Well, Nintendo, they have a history of doing that. They're ones that I actually have probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest issue with redesigns. Like their Wii redesign, which was an absolute travesty. They pretty much stripped everything down from it, made it super cheap, and just yeah. I'll maybe Scott will talk about that. I mean, he'll probably go through a bunch of console redesigns, especially in his lifespan. So yeah, let's see what Scott has to say about console redesigns. Here we go.
Hey y'all, Scott here. Oh god, this is gonna sound so mean. I'm sorry if this comes off as negative. This redesign fucking reeks.
Yes!
Taught me it's okay
Oh
to be
my
self-conscious
God!
about my appearance since they obviously...
First thing out the gate, he talks about the Wii Mini redesign. Thank you, Scott. Holy shit. That was hot garbage. It was pretty much not Shigeru, I shouldn't say Shigeru Miyamoto. It's pretty much like Reggie taking a fat, hot dump on everyone's face and expecting them to take it.
Obviously were with a 3DS after changing it like 12 times. Console redesigns are inevitable. Nothing's perfect the first go around, and redesigns give console manufacturers the chance to reignite interest in their system, make it with cheaper parts, or just simply make it better stylistically and or functionally. Now, while some console redesigns really hit it out of the park and not only looked better, but worked better,
yes,
some may have only done one or the other, and some just straight up did neither. So let's take a look at console redesigns throughout history and see whether they were a worthy upgrade or make me vomit. Now, redesigns have been around since the dawn of time, i.e., the late 70s. Some redesigns acted like they were straight-up sequels to the original models, like the Fairchild Channel F2 and the Intellivision 2. These being solid upgrades to the originals, albeit with the Intellivision 2 being made much cheaper. The Atari 2600 got a few facelifts, most famously being the Atari 2600 Junior, released in 1986. It wasn't officially subtitled the Junior, and for good reasons. That name reeks of, I'm not buying that, I'm too old for it. It was simply a redesigned 2600 released at a budget price to allure all those value seekers out there. There were a few other variants of the console released, one with some switches rearranged, and one with an all-black finish, nicknamed the Darth Vader model. Now, all these redesigns looked fine, but in my opinion, it ain't an Atari without the wood grain finish. Redesigns start to get a bit more interesting with the NES. The original model is quite the chubby piece of shit, if I do say so myself.
It was a box.
Yes, this is one of the most iconic looking video game systems ever released, but it's a meaty little guy and is crazy prone to hardware failures. I'll bet that if you own the original NES right now, it either has some problems, doesn't work, or has been refurbished or fixed at some point. After the Super Nintendo hit the scene, Nintendo put out a redesigned NES, positioning it as a budget gaming system.
That was much better.
It takes a few design cues from the Super Nintendo, as it's a top loader, which is what this model is generally referred to as. Now, rumor has it this system was designed as a way to combat complaints from consumers, as people would put their drinks on top of the NES like a coffee table. They would fall over and damage the system. This new one? Yeah, I can't confirm. No drinks fit on here. The top loader is the definitive official NES model. It rocks in almost every way. It's way more compact, is much more reliable, and can play stuff like PAL games. But it has one glaring flaw. Oh god, that's gross. Yeah, instead of AV out, this thing only has RF.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. So instead of the picture looking like this, it'll generally look like this. On top of that, being RF only means this thing is almost completely irrelevant to use on modern TVs. However, you can mod it for AV out. The problem is you definitely need some modding skills or need to spend a pretty penny to have somebody else do it for you. However, various people called Nintendo back then and complained about the lack of AV out on this system. In response, Nintendo offered to officially mod their consoles to have AV out, so there do exist official versions of this system with AV, however, they are incredibly rare. It's just so odd that it was like this straight out of the box. The Japanese Famicom version of this redesign was literally called the Famicom AV. It included AV out, and it was a big part of the branding. If you're willing to spend a ton of money to not only buy this system, but mod it as well, you might want to consider just picking up the high-end aftermarket NES systems with HDMI, like the AVS from Retro USB or the Analog NT Mini. Similar to the NES's revision, the Sega Master System 2 was a budget console redesign, but it really doesn't hold a candle to the original release in my opinion. Some Master System games came on cards, which you would insert into a slot in the original model. Hope you weren't planning to do that on your Master System 2. This only plays the cartridge-based games, which, I mean, the majority of games were released on cartridge, so it's not a huge deal. But overall, the original model plays all the games, and the design is just way more appealing to me personally. The 2 just kinda looks awkward and generic. The original isn't stunning by any means, but it has more personality. Sega decided to strike again in the terrifying world of redesigns with the Genesis, getting 3 major revisions. The original Sega Genesis model is big, bold, and screams the company who made Sonic Forces loud and proud. The second model feels a bit tamer. I grew up with this model, and overall everything feels a bit more refined and evened out. However, I do think the Model 1 has a lot more character. It's just so bold. I do have a soft spot for the Model 2, but the Model 1 just screams what the Genesis was all about. And if we're talking character, well, the Model 3 has that in spades. Yes, the runt of the litter. The Model 3 was actually produced by Majesco under Sega's license, and it's always wildly uncomfortable to me when game consoles are about the same size as the games. This one doesn't work with the Sega CD or 32X add-ons, and it's just a tiny, cheap version of the Sega Genesis. I mean, it works, but now I'd say it's really nothing more than a novelty, a collector's piece, really. The SNES got a redesign late in its life. Blam, this thing is irrelevant. I think it's fine, but I don't really see any real reason to use this compared to the original model. Unlike the NES top loader, at least it has AV out. However, that's all it has. The original SNES allowed for loads more different video outputs, so in the end, this redesign just feels like it's a downgrade across the board. I think the design is kind of boring, and it's functionally worse than the original. The PS1 and the PS1. Yes, the original PlayStation's redesign is just called the PS1, and I had this model as a kid. But I didn't know about the LCD screen attachment until way later, my god! I'm personally fine with both of these designs. You can't really go wrong with either of them. The PlayStation brand of consoles would continue to carry the torch of the redesign. Every single one has gotten a facelift, and the first to continue this tradition was the PlayStation 2. This is just one of those before and after ads. Now this is a redesign done right. They literally smashed an entire PS2 into something like 10% of the size of the original. The first model was garbage. Look at this thing. Fell apart with a few swings of a hammer. Now the PS3 was interesting because the systems got better, but worse at the same time. The original version says, I blew $600 to play Ridge Racer 7. This guy had so much useless garbage crammed into it that just made the price skyrocket. Like, look at all the card readers it had. Why do you need these? The PS3
I never
Slim
used
was
any of
released as
those.
a way to reinvigorate consumer interest in the platform at its lowest point, and it did a great job at it. The price was affordable, and the design was much more compact and attractive. However, it ditched PlayStation 2 backwards compatibility. I mean, certain varieties of the original model had it, but with the release of the Slim, PS2 disc support was gutted entirely. But at the very least, PS1 games could still be used. The PS3 Super Slim, though? Yeah, this was pointless. Talk about an odd release. A third console revision is never the most common thing out there, and this just felt like they were cheaping out. There wasn't much wrong with the PS3 Slim, and to just replace it with this wasn't the greatest. I gotta hand it to him, though. Can't do this on other consoles. The Xbox 360 had a similar droop-down redesign lane. The original model, it was terrible. I mean, it just didn't function well. It failed constantly. The 360S, on the other hand, boy, this is a good console. The 250GB model came with a glossy finish, and I'm pretty happy I cheaped out and got the 4GB model with this beautiful non-fingerprint heavy shell. They redesigned it again to look like the original Xbox One. Why? This is another design that just kind of cheaped things up a bit. They removed some ports and it reeks of first Xbox One model. I mean, that's what they were going for, but still. ES will always be the best one in my opinion. Next up, the Nintendo Wii, and if you haven't caught on yet, Nintendo really only redesigns their successful consoles. The N64, GameCube, and Wii U, yeah, those stayed the same throughout their entire life. The Wii's first release is perfect for what the Wii was meant to do. The Wii's second release got rid of the stand, GameCube backwards compatibility, and was meant to be laid on its side. That was a worthless redesign.
Yeah,
Speaking of
that one
worthless,
sucked.
the Wii Mini. This was test released in Canada around late 2012 until it got a wide release just a year later. This took things a step forward and removed internet access. Jesus Christ. At least the Wii Mini looks more interesting than the second redesign, but none of these models make a case to be bought compared to the first one. I also think the Mini really missed out on a huge opportunity with the lack of internet access. 2012 was the time streaming boxes really started to hit it big. Popping an HDMI port on the Wii Mini, giving it internet access, and positioning it as a streaming box that could play Virtual Console and Wii games could have actually been a huge hit. It did come with a Wii Remote, Nunchuck, and Mario Kart Wii here in North America for $100, and if you did the math at the time, those three things alone would add up to around $100, so you'd be getting the Wii Mini for basically nothing. That didn't stop anybody from not caring about it though. The PS4 and Xbox One have both been guilty of receiving facelifts, and in the Xbox One's case, it just kept getting better and better. The original Xbox One is f***ing terrifying. If Microsoft is capable of releasing a VCR in 2013, who knows what they can do? The system barely had any character and felt like something to sit next to the DVR under your TV and nothing else. Now the original PS4 in comparison, ooh la la. This thing isn't perfect, all these nooks and crannies can build up a lot of dust, but the PS4 has a unique design that's still fully functional. And then they made this. The PS4 Slim always felt so awkward to me. The tiny little sliver at the top just feels weird. The Xbox One's revision, the One S on the other hand, oh, this thing looks sleek, it looks modern, it's everything a redesign should be. Because not only does it look better, but it was upgraded under the hood as well with some 4K support. Now in terms of the high-end versions of each console, the Ps4 Pro. This feels like they were thinking, how do we convey to people that this is a more powerful PS4? And then somebody just said, add another sliver. Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of this triple
quite literally.
Another layer to the Slim, but not by much.
I remember when this got released, like, the promo got released for it, people were just like, oh, Sony made a sandwich. They did. They literally made, like, a
PS4
PlayStation sandwich.
Yeah.
The Xbox One X, on the other hand, is like a tweaked Xbox One S, and I think it looks lovely. The S has a bit more character with all those holes, but the X still looks really good. Now just you wait, because we can't possibly skip over the handhelds. The original Game Boy line got slimmer and better with the Game Boy Pocket and received a backlight with the Japanese exclusive Game Boy Light. I always considered the Game Boy Color to be its own system, but many consider it a half-step, and it's more of a hardware revision rather than a full-on sequel to the original Game Boy. Either way, it continued where the Game Boy Pocket left off, now with a color screen. The Game Boy Advance is what we call a full-blown sequel, and actually became playable with the release of the Game Boy Advance Sp. A full backlight, clamshell design, and rechargeable battery make this the definitive Game Boy, with an even better backlight.
Never had
than a
one of
revised
those.
model.
I did.
I always had to deal with the fucking
Game Boy
worm
Micro
light
was-
for the original Advance.
The original Advance was awesome, but the lack of a backlight made gaming at night very awkward.
Yeah.
But I did have the little braid light thing that came out the side of like my Game Boy Color. They made one like that for the Advance, and it worked good, but it drained your battery.
Mm-hmm.
Now the clamshell Game Boy Advance SP was awesome across the board. Loved it. Backwards compatibility. Great battery life, the backlight, and then the micro. I forgot this existed.
It was a really cool take on the Game Boy Advance. The problem being, that's all it was. It couldn't play original Game Boy or Game Boy Color, just Game Boy Advance games. The PSP had a fair amount of releases, with the 1000 model being the first, and the 2000 and 3000 models both being upgrades, but
If I had to
pros and
pick
cons
a
to each.
least
Some
favorite button design
What's that?
in terms of like pressing buttons, it's that row of buttons across the bottom of the fucking PSP. Those things feel awful.
Right there.
They all feel like they're not really even a button. Like they're all constantly stuck just out of the box. I
Yeah.
hate those.
Well, they did revise it a bit later. I would have preferred if they had like the start button, I don't know, like up here, or the select button, the start button up here, and the volume knobs could be like rockers on the top or something like that. Yeah, ergonomically, it doesn't work with your hands.
If they just made them like more responsive feeling buttons, less like you had to like mash the shit out of them and like they hurt your thumbs when you went to press them, like that would be fine with them. But
Yeah.
And just that.
And the 2000 and
those
3000
buttons
models
suck.
both being upgrades, but having pros and cons to each. Some prefer the 2000 screen to the 3000 screen, for example. The PSP Go was a mistake. It was a purely digital console,
Yeah.
ahead of its time definitely, but it just did not take off. At least it wasn't the E1000, which is just like the Wii Mini, stripping a ton of features including Wi-Fi. Thankfully, the PS Vita has a pretty decent
Yes.
redesign.
The Vita's
Second model
badass.
I like the
featuring a
Vita.
slightly
That's
lesser
probably my
screen.
favorite handheld console of all time.
The Vita, I would say it's the best one Sony's ever released by far. The first one, not the second one. The second one, I found it to be a little bit too cluttered.
It's like basically about the time that I thought I was just gonna be like, dude, like all of these handhelds that they're trying to make nowadays, like the DS, like the PSP and stuff like that, is like it's kind of making me think handhelds are dying. And then they put out the 3DS and the PS Vita, and I was like, never mind. They're still good. And now everybody's like, oh, handhelds are dead, and I'm like, but they haven't even put out any new ones since those. So how do you know they're dead?
Well, because
Like Nintendo kind of skipped a gen of handhelds to go and make the Switch because they wanted to combine, console with the Switch.
this is why handhelds are dead.
Yeah, that's what people think they are. But
This is why handhelds have gone.
I've played games on
gone-
my phone, and while some games work, it's basically like a 3DS with one. Or it's basically like a DS with one screen. Like it's like you can make something better than a phone to play games on for sure.
Well, and I
cool
agree.
things.
And no, don't get me wrong. I think you can do a lot of great things with your phone. Your phone is, very powerful.
One of the reasons handhelds are kind of dead for me, though, is just because I'm always in a position to be able to play games at home pretty much, and very rarely do I actually even go anywhere where I'm not immediately doing something, where I need to waste time playing games while I'm out.
Yeah.
So, like, the
You're not,
older
like,
I've
in a
gotten,
waiting room
like,
or
the
something
less
like that.
useful a handheld gaming experience has become. Like, every once in a while, like, we'll go to start the podcast and be waiting on somebody for a little while, so I'll play a game on my phone for a bit, but, like, very rarely do I need to,
Yeah.
As compared to when I was a kid and I would, like, ride passenger all the time in the car and, play games as a passenger.
That's true. I mean, it's the kids. The kid market was the biggest selling factor for handhelds.
But even
But
so,
now
like,
phones have.
with the PS Vita, like, I sat at home, like, playing Vita, like, because...
Well, Chad would
it
defend
just had
the
some
Vita all
damn
day.
good
if he was
fucking
him.
games on it. Like, it had Danganronpa before they put it on Steam. It
Had
has,
Persona 4 Golden.
yeah, Masamune, which, like, I still really want to play and beat sometime. Like, I still want to get a hold of a copy of that again in a PS Vita to play it on.
Yeah.
Or I wish they would eventually port it to something else, either way. But Masamune, and I think it had an Odin Sphere remake. Like, it had a lot of really good games, actually.
Yeah. I agree.
Kick-ass handheld. And, like, the graphics were just as good, if not a little bit better than PlayStation 3 graphics.
I'd say late PlayStation 2, like prime PlayStation 3 graphics.
Yeah.
Because I played the Uncharted: The Golden Abyss on it. That was great. That was a killer freaking
Yeah,
game.
I never did get to play that either. I'd like to play that
Oh,
eventually.
it was awesome. It has one of my favorite stories of the Uncharted series, and the gameplay is just as good as like Uncharted 1 and 2. But yeah, anyway, let's get back to this.
But with most features still intact. I've already talked about the DS line before, so I'll keep it brief. Oh, no. Amazing.
Yep.
Pretty good, but they got rid of the Gameboy Advance backwards compatibility, and almost all exclusive features of this console can be accessed on the 3DS, which can play DS games, so what's the point? Big. Now the 3DS.
Big.
The original model had a lot of little design quirks. The bottom screen would leave a mark on the top screen, a bunch of unnecessary switches and lights, and the glittery finish. All of this was fixed on the 3DS XL. While it was positioned as more of an alternative option to the regular 3DS, it fixed a lot of the little issues with it and made it a more solid system. However, I do have to say, the original 3DS XL feels a lot cheaper than the original 3DS. Oh no. The 2DS was a budget version of the 3DS, without the 3D or the clamshell design. There were millions of people who wanted to play one or two specific games on the 3DS, and that was about it. And the 2DS helped them do that for a crazy low price. I don't like this one. I know a lot of people actually find the 2DS more comfortable to hold, but not me, sadly. The new 3DS and new 3DS XL were hardware revisions of the original models, improving them both in almost every way. Offering face tracking 3D, more buttons, and a nipple. I've never been a huge fan of this C-stick here, but I'd rather have it than not at all. The regular new 3DS is beautiful. I love almost everything about this design. Plus it has interchangeable faceplates. Oh! Oh man, I really prefer the bigger screens of the new 3DS XL. It's a dreadful problem. The new 2DS XL. Nope, that's not a joke. In reviews, a lot of people claim this was the definitive 3DS. Did they even play this thing? Like, it's fine, it works, but I think too many people just made a big deal about the top screen looking like a smartphone and saying, wow, this thing is great. It's not my favorite to play on. Why are the speakers down here? Where my palms would be.
Yeah,
the
that's
3DS XL's
dumb.
placement in the 3DS line is a bit weird as well. It's for those people who don't want to cheap out completely with the regular 2DS, but not spend 30 extra bucks for a new 3DS XL. Okay. Console redesigns can be a real make it or break it moment for us when it comes to actually deciding whether or not to buy a console, and they can also help a console retain relevancy and not fade away like a fad, like the Tamagotchi or leprosy. Me personally, I have 3 major deciding factors on picking up a console redesign or not.
It's wedge shaped. It's only 2D. It's freaking yellow.
Yeah, checks out.
Leave it to Scott. Good list, or good little synopsis there, Scott. Yeah,
And see, now that I re-see it again, like, it's just even more infuriating how many fucking times they remade the 3DS.
It's almost like Todd Howard. You know, it's like we're re-releasing Skyrim instead of working on the next Elder Scrolls. We're re-releasing Skyrim on the Samsung Smart Fridge. We're re-releasing Skyrim on the freaking watermelon.
Yeah, that was the thing, though. Is it was like, yeah, man, like, the original 3DS is pretty legit, and I finally got one, right? And then, like, a couple months later, they're like,
XL.
oh, we're putting out a 3DS XL. And I was like, you sons of fucking bitches. And then a long time after that, I'm like, yeah, I think I'll finally get a 3DS XL. It'd be worth it.
And then
shortly after that, they released the new one, and I'm like, fuck you, Nintendo! Fuck you!
Bad timing.
Eat my entire ass!
Bad timing.
You fucking assholes.
Bad timing.
Yeah. Stop making new ones! Put out the next fucking gen or kiss my ass! Assholes.
That's fair.
Fucking assholes.
Okay, fair enough. So...
Dickheads. It makes me mad.
I know.
Bullshit.
I can see the anger. I can feel the anger.
It's funny, but it's bullshit.
Well, I'm sitting over here and I'm just smiling. I'm just like, let the hate flow through.
Pretty much.
Yes. But I'll say the console redesigns, for me, my personal favorite ones that I have bought myself, the PlayStation 2 redesign pretty much made it, made me carrying it over to my cousin's house a breeze. I would just unplug it, just pack everything up in like a little carrying case, walk up to his house, bring the games we want to play, boom. I remembered I brought Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts 2 up there, and I let Zach see me play part of it, and he was like, Nate, can I play it? And I'm like, you want to play it? And he's like, yeah, I'd like to play it. And I'm like, all right. I come back up there. Apparently, according to my Aunt Glenda, he didn't sleep. He restarted the game, played all the way through, and he was at the final boss fight with Xemnas. And I'm just like...
Jesus.
I'm like, Zach, what the hell? And he's just like... I have a problem. Well, keep in mind, Zach was 13 at that time. He's grown up a lot since then, but whenever a game hits him, he goes, man. I remember when he discovered Far Cry 5. Holy shit.
Every once in a while. Like, it's kind of rare that I'll just, like, get that sucked into a game nowadays, though.
Well, you've seen me, dude. You've seen me get sucked into certain games, and I don't stop. It's like when I played God of War, when I played Spider-Man. I couldn't freaking stop.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain games that just hit me, and I have to finish them. It's not finish the story, by the way. I have to complete them. I platinumed both God of War and Spider-Man literally, like, about a week or a few days after they came out.
Most of the games that I've done that with recently have been very short games. Like,
yeah.
They haven't been hard to do that with. The last time I did one that was a little bit longer, it still wasn't that long, and it was probably Batman Arkham Asylum.
That's a good one, though.
Like, I just played through it in one night without sleeping and got everything in it.
Uh-oh. My mom. Hold on. Sorry about that, everyone. My mom called me up to ask if I ate the Thanksgiving dinner that she brought me, I had some of the turkey, but that's about it. Oh boy, yeah. So told me I need to have that macaroni that she made because she says it's the best she's ever made. Thanksgiving leftovers, aren't they fun? Good lord. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it. This was Console Redesigns by Scott the Woz. If you are interested in seeing more from Scott the Woz, feel free to click his name in the title of the video. It will take you directly to his channel. He has a multitude of different videos about various things in gaming and entertainment. Suggest you check it out. So, until then, I'm Nate.
I am Nick.
We'll see you then, everybody. Peace out.